All right, got it. Press record. Okay, so we talked very little bit about our messages with each other, and besides all the funny parts, he pretty much just gave mine. So mine is called The Monster in the Marriage. And I don't know if everybody has read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, but very quick synopsis. It's Frankenstein desired to create life. He accomplished his goal, and he was terrified of what he made, right? So he looks before him this gargantuan man that has now become alive and smiling. And he was horrified, and he ran away. Okay, so his creation says, well, if I cannot inspire love, I will cause fear. And he did. He terrorized Frankenstein's life, and in the end, killed his fiance, ruined his entire life. I mean, everything was tragedy upon tragedy. And all because Frankenstein wanted to be God. He wanted to create life. It's all very fascinating, and it does have something to do with marriage. Scary, right? We're not unlike Frankenstein. We have been given a very, very special person to love, to cherish, to do our best to take care of, and to do our best to grow with, and to do our best to help grow also. Sometimes, instead of all those wonderful things, we just want to fix them. We just look at them and we just want to fix them. You know? It's normal. It's normal to help your spouse to want to learn, and it's normal to want them to do and be the things that you want them to do and be. That's okay. But sometimes we forget about the fact that we cannot change them against their will. That was such a good point. But like Frankenstein did, we very often visit those graveyards of the past. We delve into the graveyard of when we were dating, and we pull up all these dead pieces of our spouse. We don't want the whole package. We do not want our spouse back when we were dating them. We don't want that back, trust me. When you were dating your spouse, they were not the mature, or they have matured a lot, most likely. But they exercised back then. I want that part of it. I don't want the immaturity, but I want the fact that they did this. So I'm going to just grab that out of the graveyard. Okay? Then next, I'm going to visit the graveyard of my past relationships. And I'm going to grab my boyfriend's hands because he used to rub my feet. My husband doesn't rub my feet. I don't want my boyfriend, my old boyfriend. I didn't like him at all. But he used to rub my feet, and I want that. So I'm going to take those hands, and I'm going to try and bring that into my marriage.
That's a good point.
We dig up that person's brain because we want him to be a little smarter. We dig up those biceps over there, the bodybuilder's torso, old boyfriend's legs, so on and so forth, till we have just a huge pile of dead things. So we take all these dead things and we're stitching them on. And we're sticking them on and trying to make them be on our spouse. And then we pick and we nag and we beg. We give them the cold shoulder. And by the time we're done, we look at our spouse and we've buried them. They're not recognizable anymore. The things that we have tried to force on them take on this grotesque lifelessness. And more often than not, you've created a very frustrated monster instead of this imaginary perfect spouse that you were going for. And then your spouse realizes, even with all this stuff that they've tried to adapt for you, they cannot please you. And if they cannot inspire love, they're going to stop trying, and misery inevitably ensues. So, Frankenstein's first mistake, He tried to play the role of God. God alone creates life. We don't. And instead of taking our spouse's arm and encouraging them to do something with what they have, we chop it off and we plug in our old boyfriend's arm. And then once we try to breathe life into it, and we try to breathe life into the things of the past, it will remain lifeless.
That's right.
You cannot bring life into the things that are dead. So, we need to help each other grow and sharpen each other as iron sharpens iron, which can hurt and be humbling. But we need to do it without bringing up the past and without trying to create a new human. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you you have to live with what you were given. You made your bed, now you have to sleep with it. It's okay. Glad you guys got that one. It's okay to want a spouse to please you, and it's okay to tell them how to please you. But digging up the dead from the past will only make your husband or your wife feel inadequate. So where do we start? If forcing it or begging isn't going to change our spouse, what are we going to do? First, I know I've mentioned this in probably every single one of our years here, but you always start by humbling yourself. Always. And the longer we've been married, the easier it is to forget that. Because at first, it's like, I will always be the first to apologize. That lasted, awesome for the first 2 years. And then it's like, I don't care. I'm not apologizing. And then you go through the cycle of growing up a little more and realizing, I should be the first to apologize, even if it wasn't my fault. Man. So, stop pointing the finger. Do some real self-examining. And make sure you're not walking around with the plank in your eye and trying to fix your spouse, and you're knocking them out with this huge log that you're swinging around in your own eye. And then, as George Whitefield prayed hundreds of years ago, Lord, help me to begin to begin. I thought that was profound because sometimes beginning is very hard. So sometimes let's just begin to begin.
That's good.
Yeah.
Just that tiny little first step. So here is how we're going to begin to begin. 3 steps. Number 1, we're going to take initiative. He already covered a lot of that, but I'll give you more. Number 2, show sincere appreciation. Number 3, be happy and be patient. So we're going to start with number 1, taking the initiative. To help someone change, you need to lead the way. Changing your spouse starts with you. Always. It always starts with you. Be mindful of that. We have already established that trying to force someone to change will only create a monster, and no one likes whining. However, taking the initiative is a much more attractive quality. For instance, we've talked about getting healthy, right? And if you want your husband to be healthier, start cooking. Start cooking healthier. Get the junk out of the house.
That's right.
And if you're really going to wow them, you pack them a lunch to take to work that's full of healthy food. And then they're not going to eat out as much. But that's taking the initiative. You're not saying, oh, we need to eat healthier. You need to eat healthier. You need to eat healthier. Now pick us up some pizza on the way home. Right? He's going to take notice of the initiative that you're taking. And in due time, he will respond. Now, I've found also in life, oftentimes when I get frustrated with my husband, it's because I'm not doing the things that I myself, he is not doing the things that I myself am lacking in. So I ask him to eat healthy, and I get irritated about it, and he's not doing it. but maybe it's more because I want to eat healthy. I want him to be off of his phone. I want him to be reading more. I want him to be watching less movies. And I want you to read the Bible more and spend more time with the Lord. And then I take a closer examination. I'm so frustrated about this because I feel guilty that I'm not doing it enough myself. And I want him to start making the changes and pull me along. It's not the right way to do it. So, half the time, when you jump in and you take the initiative, you make the changes of things that you want to see, all of a sudden, bam, your needs are met. Because it wasn't actually him doing it that you needed. It was you doing it that actually needed to happen.
That's good. That's good.
So occasionally we do what I like to call, or well, I've just dubbed the yes challenge. It's simply to practice saying yes. You can do this at any stage in your marriage. When your spouse asks you to do something, of course we're respectful and we're reasonable about when and what. But when they ask you to do something, we say, sure.
Sure.
Yes. Yeah, we say yes. You know, can you please take the trash out? What happens so often when you ask your husband to take the trash out? I'll get to it. I'll do it later. But I'm in the middle of cooking and I need to put stuff in the trash. Please take that, you know. So instead of saying, hold on a second and playing word crossy, I'll get to it. You know, instead of doing that, it's put it down. You run, take the trash out, literally takes you 30 seconds. Anyways, vice versa. The husband, he wants help with something. Instead of using one of your million children as an excuse or anything as an excuse, you say, yes, I will help you. Needs help bringing in some wood? Yes, I will help you. You set down what you're doing and you go and help. If someone wants to go for a walk, yes, let's go. If someone wants to play a game, then play. If someone wants to have sex, then do it. Stop having so many excuses. It will actually make your spouse feel like they are a priority. It will actually help you to keep your priorities straight. Your spouse should be very near the top of your priority, aside from God. Your spouse needs to be way up there. And this is a good reminder to remember to keep them there. So we've done this exercise before, and the only thing it's ever done for us is given us a true appreciation for each other. We look and we're like, this is so nice. It's so much better this way. For both of us, a true appreciation. So if your spouse is not ready for the yes challenge, or they're being stubborn or whatever, then take the initiative. Start saying yes to him or her. And I guarantee it's not going to take long if you're married to a reasonable person. It's not going to take long for it to start happening. I love this quote from Marianne Evans, but she used the pen name George Eliot. It will never rain roses. When we want to have more roses, we must plant roses. Right? Some practical advice right there. But just like roses, if we want something from our spouse, we need to plant the seed. And as a gardener, and any gardener knows, growing anything takes effort. And once you have put all the work into planting that, you must wait and cultivate. And if something doesn't come up quickly enough, and you decide, I'm done, I'm not watering that anymore, the seed dies. It dies. All your hard work dies with it. All the time you spent prepping and tilling, it's gone. We're constantly growing things in our marriage, our little marriage garden. We can be either growing beautiful flowers or we can be growing weeds.
That's right.
We need to be planting purposefully in our gardens, in our marriage. But once we do plant something, we must cultivate it and wait before we get to see that tiny sprout coming up out of the soil. And I want to encourage you to stop. I know you guys are all way too mature for any of this, but stop the whining, stop the begging, stop the nagging, stop the cold shoulder and the silent treatment. Like I said, you're all way too mature for this. But start tilling your marriage garden, gathering the seeds that you want to see grow. Don't give the seed to your spouse and say, here, grow this. It's not helpful. Take the initiative yourself. Galatians 6:9 says, and let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. How often do we give up on the things that we planted and wanted to see grow, but never do because we gave up on it? We want more help around the house. We know that to be true. Be more helpful yourself. If you want your husband to be a better listener, listen first to him. Trying to force the changes on him have not fostered good results. In fact, only resentment and frustration like we've been talking about. And I'm pretty sure the Bible says something about doing unto others. Luke 6:31, and as you wish that others would do to you, do so to them. So this brings us to step 2. Appreciation. Not just a passing pat on the back, but a clear acknowledgement of appreciation. Everyone likes their good deeds to be seen and recognized. If your spouse starts taking direction in fulfilling your wishes, don't let it go unnoticed. The greatest encouragement at this point is going to be your appreciation. So you need to let your man know that they are pleasing you, that their effort is not in vain, that he is fixing the problem. Men who likes to fix a problem? Not a single one of you? Okay, I got 2 men who like to fix problems. Okay. Men love to fix things, or at least that's what all the marriage books say. Men love to fix things, right?
I'm really good at it, though.
Yeah, you're really good. So show them clearly that what they are doing is working, acknowledging that his actions are bearing fruit. None of us like to do things in vain, and we won't continue if we think they're in vain. And not saying anything at all is the same thing as not appreciating him, is showing no appreciation at all.
That's right.
So the only thing worse would be to nitpick when they try. Good job, babe, but I sure wish you would have done this. I have a humiliating but a perfect example. The other night, Nick helped load all the dishes in the dishwasher and wiped down the counters and cleaned up and put some tea on. He was like,
Wow.
kitchen's cleaned. We're going to sit by the fire. We're going to enjoy our night. And I'm like, awesome. No, we did. We sat by the fire and we had really wonderful time. A little while later, I go in the kitchen. And I'm like, all the pots from dinner were still sitting everywhere, all over the stove. And I was just like, man, I thought you said you cleaned the kitchen. Oh, shut my mouth. That's not the response that you say when someone does well. And he did well. He loaded the dishwasher and did wipe all the counters down. But yes, I could have instead just said, thanks, let me just finish up these last few pots real fast before we go to bed. I could have just done that. But instead I was like, man, And it's just like, oh, wrong response. Fortunately, I have a very mature husband, and he doesn't get his feelings hurt, and he didn't feel discouraged. He might have, but he still continues to help me. And I appreciate that. And I have since apologized for my response because it was not mature. But when your spouse takes one step forward and you hit him with the, you didn't do it quite right, you're pushing your progress 2 steps back. Be mindful of that. All right, step 3. Be patient and be happy. We need to be patient because things do not grow overnight. I want to read 1 Corinthians 13. We're all familiar with this. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. Try to let a little bit sink in. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things and endures all things. Love is patient. It doesn't insist on its own way. It's not irritable or resentful or rude. I could have just read that and ended the message. It is that powerful. Because we love our spouse. Do we? Do we do those things? Because if we had God kind of love for our spouse, we would do those things. Yeah. Next time you get frustrated or irritable or just want to have your own way, when you're not being kind, you are not loving your spouse the way that God wants you to love your spouse just by being irritated with them. It's in the scriptures. It's not me. All right? When we walk in true love, then we will exhibit these characteristics to our spouse. All right, so quick note on being happy. Nick mentioned that about having, in the list, an unhappy wife. They want their wives to be happy, more happy. A lot of women have this problem, this unhappiness problem. And I know we don't always feel happy, but showing your spouse how unhappy you are on a daily basis will not help. It will not make him want to try harder. It will simply make him feel inadequate. And most people do not respond well to that. Few things make a man feel like more of a failure than a wife that is unhappy all the time. Feeling like a failure can lead to giving up, pulling away, just not trying anymore. Like Frankenstein's monster, if I cannot inspire love, I will cause fear. If your spouse cannot make you happy, then they will inevitably stop trying. And if something is not growing, it is dying. All right, so really quick, it's okay for me to go a little over.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let me put this in perspective for you. A woman gets hurt, upset, her feelings are hurt. She's desperately trying to change her man for the better. And it feels like he is inadequate and a failure and has stopped trying altogether to please her, so she's mopey and unhappy and always frustrated and unkind. Now here is the kind of woman God called us to be. This is paraphrased a little bit, but you guys know the scripture. The heart of her husband trusts her. Profound in and of itself. She does him good. She does him good, not harm, all the days of her life, not just on her happy days. She dresses with strength and makes her arms strong. She opens her mouth with wisdom and teaching of kindness. That is what is on her tongue. She looks well to the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Many women have done excellently, but you surpass them all. Can you see the contrast here? One builds up and one tears down. Cutting pieces of your spouse away and trying to graft the dead past onto them is only going to make a monster. But leading the way to the goals that you want to see happen in a loving and kind way that patiently waits for the seeds of change and maturity to grow as you set an example, being humble yourself in the change that must be made in you First, showing sincere appreciation for the smallest steps in the right direction, leaving the past in the grave where it belongs, choosing to be happy, and planting purposefully in our marriage gardens. And remember, love never fails.